Hey out there, another edition of Pete's Secret Stash. In this series, I like to talk about things that I like to fish with, and I'd like to share with you guys some of my favorite products that I stash around my office. So today we're talking about the Steez family from Daiwa. I'm a big Steez fanatic. I've had a whole bunch of these throughout my whole career in the fishing industry. I think they're some of the finest works of art as far as reels go, and they've had a massive following all over the globe, to be honest with you, as an enthusiast reel. And what I mean by enthusiasts is people who collect fishing tackle, want to get their hands on the best equipment they possibly can, and these things shine towards the top of being one of the standout reels out there in the marketplace. The whole family. And there's different models, and this I'm going to break down kind of the differences between them if you're looking at purchasing or trying out one of the Steez reels from Daiwa. This one here is the Steez SV. Alright? This one features Daiwa's Steez SV technology, which is a spool. The spool on this reel features the SV brake, which has gained a reputation throughout the industry as being one of the most versatile spools on the market. In fact, SV stands for stress-free versatile. And what that means is this reel can cast super hard and far, or it can in close quarters or into the wind or anything like that. You're not going to backlash with this thing if you set the brakes up properly. Even with the brakes set a little looser, this thing's an extremely forgiving reel to fish with, and it's probably the leader in that category as far as being able to skip without any issues whatsoever, which is one of the hardest techniques to master with a bait caster. How they accomplish this is very tricky to explain, especially over a video like this, but to give you a quick breakdown of it, the braking system, the magnets on this side of the reel, you're adjusting with this dial on the side, and the dial goes 1 through 20. Obviously, the higher that you have the number on the brake dial here that you've turned it to, the more braking it has. This is called an induct rotor. This rotor will actually come out and contact these magnets, and it slows the rotation of the spool down. The magnet actually is braking the spool. So when the spool's turning, all I'm doing here is holding on to the spool and I'm turning it forward like I'm casting. This brake is actually sliding out as I do that. It's ever so slightly. Like I said, it's hard to see in this situation. But as I turn this spool, this brake is actually extending out and slowing down. So that means without even high RPM or spool speed, this brake is already working. So on the front end and the back end of your cast, the brake is always helping you out, maintaining your line from blowing up and having a big giant bird's nest and you saying a lot of swear words. The SV system probably does the best in this platform, in the Steez platform, in my opinion. The spool is made of G1 duraluminum, which is a very high-end aluminum, very lightweight aluminum, so those brakes can affect that spool rotation the best. All the Steez reels now have the zero brake adjusting system. The zero turn, I should say. So these brakes right here are preset from the factory, and they're extremely hard to turn your spool tension knob on these. It's designed so that it can't get knocked, moved around, and messed with, because if you leave it the way it is and have no side-to-side spool play, this thing will do the most work for you. If you're someone who likes loose spool tension, you can turn this and adjust it, but it's hard. You got to get your fingers in there and really twist on and get it to where it is. But it's a great feature that goes unrecognized, that this never changes unless you physically make the effort to move it and change it, which you'd be surprised how often your spool tension changes on a reel if you're not paying attention. This reel also features what Daiwa now has had out for a while, the T-wing feature, which is your line guide here when you're in the casting position opens up and it covers over half the width of the spool no matter what position that line tie is in, or that line guide is in. So your casting distance is less impeded. And it doesn't backlash because even if the line bunches up a little bit, it's able to push more line through that larger aperture. What makes Steezes is the insanely highly machined gears. They feel buttery smooth. They're really light in weight. They're contoured beautifully for your hands. They look like a piece of art. This particular model in the SV is made out of magnesium, so it's insanely lightweight, but it still maintains that metal feel in hand, which is really nice and sensitive when you're reeling a bait through the water column. It features a 80 millimeter handle, by the way, which in the US domestic market, I honestly prefer the larger handles. So if I were to have one of these again, I would put a larger handle on it myself. But just so you know, these smaller 80 millimeter handles are more popular in Japan, not only because they're lighter, but you can actually reel them faster because you're traveling less distance. You just lose a little bit of torque. So if you can get by with that little 80 mil, you'll be burning your baits. Next up is the Steez A. This one's an aluminum bodied version of the Steez with a larger 90 millimeter handle and flat paddles. So this is your power fishing version of the Steez. This happens to be my favorite bait caster ever made. I love this reel. It does have the same braking tension feature where it's zero turn. You really, it's preset. You don't have to mess with it. But if you want to loosen it up, you can. It features MagForce Z braking instead of SV braking. So this one's a distance caster. The brake disengages at the end of the cast, so you get more distance out of this thing. So for power fishing techniques, bigger line, that aluminum housing is a little heavier than the SV version, but it is more sturdy and strong. So it balances out bigger rods a little bit better. It's still lightweight in hand, still the same shape, but this is for your power fishing applications. I think this is the best Steez ever made, in my opinion, so far, to date. But I'm about to test that theory with the newest member of the family. This is the Steez CT. This is the little baby brother of the other two, and it's brand new to the world. This thing's insanely lightweight. It's a tiny little compact version of the Steez. Favorite feature so far, the brake is hidden completely. It's underneath the reel here, so when I want to adjust those brakes, it's underneath. And it does feature a small little SV spool. So stress-free casting. I can throw anything I want with this bait caster with confidence in any conditions and not worry about backlashing. So I already bought one of these. I just haven't fished with it yet. I'm going to use this for jig fishing with smaller jigs in tight cover situations around docks, laydowns, things like that, and use a little bit lighter line than I typically would flip with and a little bit lighter jig fishing rod than I typically would fish with, because this thing to me is going to be the absolute world beater when it comes to fishing lighter line on a bait caster and smaller jigs and smaller hook presentations. I'm excited to get this thing on the water. I think this thing's going to be a staple for high-end rods for a long time to match up with, because it's air light, super comfortable to palm, and it has that SV spool. So check out all the Steez reels, and I think you'll find a favorite real quick, and you'll see why everybody loves the Steez family, and it's my favorite family of reels. Take care and go catch them.